morning, shoppers. Thank you again for joining me for Brotato. If you were not here live, I just got done playing or trying to play the remastered version of Oblivion, as I said I was going to do, and here to find out that it was totally bad for my eyesight. I don't know if my captions are working again or not. If not, I apologize. Okay, I think so. I think they're still going. All right. I'm gonna do some level 5 dangers. I will not get past this. Spoiler alert, I have never gotten past a level 5 danger. And I kind of figured out what I was doing wrong a little bit earlier today. So my tip is normally I would fuck off with luck and say I don't need it, but I do need it. At least some luck. So we're gonna just keep that in mind as we move forward. Yes, we want more trees. I've been playing a lot of Brotato. I've been playing a lot of Brotato. I've been playing a lot of Bejeweled. So I guess a lot of the B games lately I've been playing. I want to try Crypt Custodian. I have it downloaded on my system, but I have yet to do that, so I should really think about it. Okay. We'll take the range, even though it's not my favorite thing. And we'll hold on to these for next time. We should combine these guns. But yeah, I believe Brotato is a roguelike because it has the progression system during the run, but after the run, outside of unlocking characters, you're pretty much boned in terms of any kind of other progress. Whereas like the Eternal Die that I had been playing was definitely a you're going to make progress for the run and outside of the run. So yeah, I think I've gotten to like level 18 or 19 is the highest on here, so really it's not that bad, but yeah. So we're just gonna take a little armor. Eventually the armor doesn't help because they just do so much damage to you, but if you want me to like run you through this game and like what you do, it's fine. But like I think you already know, I do have it on automatic shooting. You do not have to have it on automatic shooting. It's just easier for me. All I have to do is like run around. Although I might be able to win easier if I actually could control what I was doing. So that's a possibility anyway. I'm probably gonna at least upload this part to YouTube. That would be nice, I suppose. I should get back to Bookbound for the YouTube channel as well, because I always have something to talk about and related to writing or whatever. It's just what I like and what I talk about. If you would see like my recommended channels or my channels that I subscribe to, you would see so many of them cover like bookish drama, like different authors behaving badly or conventions that were ran poorly or whatever it is. So I like that kind of stuff. I like to keep my ear to the ground, to the rail, whatever you want to finish that with. And it's because it's useful and not just in a oh haha we can like talk about people kind of way, but when somebody like messes up a project or whatever, usually they get involved with another project down the road. So keeping your eye on who's doing what when and what they mess up is important. So it isn't just like me wanting gossip, which outside of telling all of you or like people around me, like who am I gonna talk about literary drama and gossip with? Not very many people, fortunately or unfortunately. So I do know for a fact that the best American poetry anthology is not going to exist anymore. So I don't remember how many years they've been doing it, but decades, I believe. And this is their last year. So that's sad. They say it's not by their choice, but they don't really elaborate to my knowledge. At least they didn't on the blog post I read, so interesting, interesting. I mean, there could be, you know, funding cuts or nobody to take it over if somebody's retiring. There are a lot of reasons to not do that kind of thing, but at the same time, I don't know. I just found it interesting because I was doing a video that kind of tangentially mentions the best American poetry, so yeah. We're gonna take that for the range. Okay. I probably should have told people to refresh and chat, but it should be fine. Otherwise, this week I'm going to work on stuff for my personal channel. I'm going to, like I said, go out on Friday with everybody in my family, or who's left anyway. I have been doing a little more this summer outside the apartment, so that's nice, I guess. I already died on wave 7. That was a shitty run. Oh well. But yeah, I've been trying to watch more stuff and, you know, just get as much experience as I can. Today has felt really like fall. It's late August and it's like so cold outside. It's like 49 degrees or whatever. And that's unusual. Thank you, Bajust. But yeah, it's really unusual for this time of year to not be hot. We do get the dog days of summer. I mean, our hot isn't like down south hot to be sure, but like today I think the high was only like 63 and the low is like 49. And that's really not something we feel around here. It already feels like fall is moving in, which I am not complaining at all. I really would like to not have to use our air conditioner very often. So give me some of that shit. But also we are already almost to, like I said, Labor Day. The kids can't go back to school in Wisconsin until after Labor Day. Like there's a law. So like we're hearing like all these other states where it's like, oh, they're going back to school, like in Kentucky and stuff, and it's like, well, not here. I don't know how many states, you know, have the after Labor Day, but I think when I was a kid we didn't have that. They could like ship us back off to school before Labor Day, which my mom never liked, so. And I understand that, like, what is the point of putting your kids back in school for like a week or two and then giving them like a 3-day weekend? Like, not very long after. I don't know. We're gonna start combining some of these guns. Then we'll see where we are. I like the flannel shirt because you can knock a tree down in one hit. But yeah, I could try Crypt Custodian on Thursday. I don't know. Crypt Custodian is another game on Game Pass, and I'm really trying to get a lot out of Game Pass because, you know, limited time stuff and all that, so we'll see. But yeah, the video I'm doing on my personal channel, that's taken me weeks on and off to get it right, and to, you know, you gotta do the slides and all that other stuff, so it's been quite a bit. So when I'm doing stuff for me versus this channel versus whatever, it's always hard to kind of make it mesh together because I don't want to neglect one for the other, but a lot of times I do neglect my personal channel for this channel, or, you know, this content, which I keep wanting to make good content for you all too, which, yeah, is debatable if I do that, I'm sure, but I try. Like I said, with doing earrings for my sister and the fact that I was sitting up and I was shaking, and here I am trying to like do the jump rings and put the charms and the stick pin on the earring part to the jump ring so that it can have the charm dangling off the bottom. And I am like, my vision is not great. I actually like poked myself really badly with what the hell was it? I don't remember what I was using. I think it was a pliers at one point, and I poked myself really badly with the pliers trying to do something because I just could not get it to hold still. And I don't know if I was having a fainting spell upcoming, because I get those sometimes. I found that out when I was getting an epidural, actually. You know, part of the thing is, when I talk about my life and like my health problems and stuff like that, people are like, I don't want to hear about it, which I understand. And people just want to go to a stream to relax or talk to people or whatever. But at the same time, I don't really understand always, because I'm inside of it, how certain things come off about my life. And then people are like, oh my god, that's terrible. And I'm just like, oh yeah, you're not used to that, are you? So, and one time I was on Dan's stream talking, because Dan just allows anybody he knows well to, you know, go on his stuff and talk while he plays or whatever. And I was telling the story about, because we had been talking about people and things and certain men and whatnot, and I was telling a story about my oldest brother, who I don't talk to anymore. My oldest brother at the time had a best friend, and I was in my teens, and or maybe 20 at the time, but I think it started out when I was in my teens. And how his best friend started like hitting on me, and he was like part of the D&D circle and everything like that. So at first I just kind of like brushed it off and everything like that, and I just told the story about like what had gone on, kind of, sort of. And somebody actually came into the stream and had said like, oh, I didn't know this was trauma dumping hour, but it was like something that like Dan had asked me about, or we got to talking about, and I was just like, at the time I was like really hurt about it, and I'm like, yeah, I understand where this person might not want to hear all this. And then I just think, you know, I tell everything about my life, that like my oldest brother doesn't want me in his life anymore, and how fucked up that made me, and like everything that went on with my health. And I talk about everything, and I talk about probably too much. And I wonder if I would be a better streamer if I just like made silly noises and talked about the game or my favorite kind of cookie or whatever, instead of talking about my life or civil rights or what have you. So, but yeah, I just want to remind people that we are looking at possibly getting rid of gay marriage in America this fall. So that's fun, said with all the fucking sarcasm I can muster. And of course they're gonna be like, we're not getting rid of it though, Toluca. What we're doing is we're giving it back to the states like we did abortion. Yeah, and how many people has that fucked over already? Exactly. So many states, the minute it's not allowed federally anymore, there's like a kill switch in place where it's just all gonna go away for every fucking like 30 states, 30 some odd states, I don't remember. But yeah, terrible. Thank you very much. And I don't want to see it happen, of course. You know, I've been on the other side of it in a way. I'm not saying, oh, I know what, you know, gay people go through and whatnot, but I've known people to be like, disabled people shouldn't marry. And there is a disabled penalty for disabled people marrying, because we're looked at as like our spouse's dependents. So they are supposed to like support us, especially if we're on like public welfare programs. But the problem is like very few people actually make enough money to support a very disabled person who needs like 15 medications, catheters, wheelchairs, walkers, in-home health care, etc. Like, how many people can afford that kind of help or that kind of like extra stuff? Not many. So we actually become like a quote unquote more of a financial burden to, at least that's the way, you know, people look at us, to our spouses. And the system is set up that way. So like when you are disabled and you need help or you need all this extra stuff, whatever it is, blah, 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 a lot of times we are easy to control. We are easy to hurt because we are, you know, under the care, protection, whatever of a spouse. So if a spouse is not good to us or for us, it can really cause trouble. And the system is really designed to basically keep us in trouble. Yeah. True. You know, that's the thing. When I'm genuine, it's like I always wanted to like cut to the real, if that makes sense. You know, I always wanted to be myself and like have people be open to being themselves in my like chat, in my little area of the world, whatever. You know, I always thought if I were authentic, the people who liked me would be able to be like, oh, okay, this is what's up, I like this, or this is what's up, I don't like this. I would rather somebody know from the outset if they like me than like grow up with me for years and pretend to love me and then not like me, like Golden Wolf, or people who've been my friends and then they're like, well, I liked it when you were all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies and dolphins swimming in a pool of fucking angel tears, but I don't like it when you are talking about all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, fair, but the other stuff is like my life too. So, but anyway, back to the gay marriage thing. So there is supposedly something on the books that says that if your state gets rid of gay marriage, that you can still go and get married in a different state and it'd still be recognized. So like, let's take Oregon, okay? So Oregon has gay marriage written into their constitution. So if you go to Oregon with like your boyfriend when you're a guy, you know how being gay, lesbian, whatever works, obviously. If you go with your same-sex partner, you can still get married and go back to your backward state that doesn't allow gay marriage, and you can still like have your marriage recognized there. But how many gay people can't afford to travel to another state? Will the states, like with abortion, try to prevent you from traveling to a different state to actually get married? Like, there are so many different like what ifs. And yes, they have been trying to stop like people from traveling for abortion, so like you probably won't be able to like travel for gay marriage because we said no about your life. So that's a thing. And like I said, you should still be able to get married, you know, even if you can't afford to go cross country. And I remember back in the day, and I don't remember which years, maybe more in the 80s, like Hawaii was very like a place where like a lot of gay people got married. I don't remember why it was Hawaii, and maybe I'm totally making this up out of my asshole, but I don't think so. So like gay people went to Hawaii to get married, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that was good, but like what if you couldn't afford to go to Hawaii, you know, to get your union recognized or whatever? I think it's nobody's business who you marry as long as you're, you know, marrying people who are of legal age, able to consent, you know, all the caveats. Just like I believe in, you know, for who you sleep with, it has to be consensual. And you have to be able to give that consent. But people who want to stop gay marriage, a fair chunk of those people are like the sanctity of marriage and then have like 7 divorces, or they have mistresses where they have like children outside of wedlock, and they have all this other stuff going on, but they're the family values people, am I right? It's like, sure you are. Oh, I barely made that one. I barely made that one. So it's kind of funny but also sick at the same time. Right, it is a huge discriminating factor. But they're just like, go somewhere else, and it's like, you go somewhere else. Like, I don't get it. These are also the people kind of small government, but yet they'll turn around and be like, we want to be able to tell you if you can get married. We want to be able to tell you this, that, and the other. I've told this story before about myself, but like, when husband and I got married, you have to go apply for your license and agree that you can engage freely in, you know, the act of being married, because it's a contract, god damn it. And when we got there, you know, I'm in a wheelchair, obviously. And my mom went with us because she had to drive us. And the woman behind the counter looked at my mom and said, can she consent to get married? And mom's like, yeah, but ask her. But they just looked at me and were basically writing me off, like, oh, there's no way. Like, disabled, there's no way she can consent. And I'm thinking to myself, these are some of the same types of people who, if they saw like a 40-year-old man with like a 15-year-old girl, would just be like, yes, this is the way Jesus wanted. I mean, I'm not talking about that particular woman, okay, at the clerk's office, but you get my general idea. A fair amount of these people are also, who are against gay marriage, are also more for like child marriage, or marrying, let's say, freshly young. And it's like, ew, gross. Like, absolutely not. But yeah, so they just had to ask my mom because they did not believe I could consent. And I don't know about you, but if you listen to me talk, right? And granted, I didn't say too much at the place, but if you listen to me talk, I sound like I can at least consent to something, right? Like my 2-year contract with Roku or whatever it is, I can consent to certain things. So at the time, I was 22 years old. We got married when we were 22. So it wasn't like there was any kind of confusion about, you know, me being underage or anything like that. So, but the wheelchair automatically makes people assume I cannot know what I'm doing, basically. But if you just let me talk, I kind of debase you of that notion pretty quickly. Granted, I'm not always on top of my game intellectually, but that's a different story. You know, when I was doing the... doesn't matter, never mind. I was gonna talk about like my personal video kind of in broad strokes. But like as I was doing some of the paragraph formatting and whatnot, I was like, oh yeah, okay, this word and that word, and I'm like, I actually sound fairly intelligent in this script. Like, that's not something that normally happens. But one of the reasons why people probably don't think I'm as intelligent as I at least still hope I am has to do with my vocabulary. And you can tell I have a decent one somewhat, but the thing is, a lot of people are like, there's no way you are as intelligent as you claim to be. And though I don't really give like too many things, I have talked about my IQ to people who are assholes and automatically think that wheelchair equals low IQ, wheelchair equals inability to understand the world around me, blah blah blah. So I end up having them tell me that I don't have, even if I'm verbose, I don't have a good enough lexicon for what I am saying my IQ is. And the reason I do this partially is because I talk to normal people all the time. Like, I don't talk to people with like PhDs and Mensa all day, every day. I don't. Could I hold my own there? Yes. But I don't speak to those people mostly. Not through choice, it's just where I am. And I really try to make sure that most people understand me when I speak. I have met people who try to get some fancy $10 words in when they're just talking to somebody down the street because they want to be seen as an intellectual. They want to be seen sometimes even as superior. And I just want people to understand me. I just want to have a conversation. I just want to share ideas, news, whatever. I don't want to do this whole rigmarole of like esoteric flattery or trying to find like some secret, almost fucking linguistic iconography, which doesn't even make sense at the first blush, but it's apt. They just want to be able to say, well, they know this, that, and the other. Okay, then, great. Good for you. Go on with your bad self. But I want to get to know people. Yeah, 10 years old. Can you fucking imagine? And there are a fair amount of people on, let's say, certain sides of political spectrums that think being a teenager and getting married is the best time. Like a man in his like 20s and 30s should be married to like a teenager. And I don't mean like 18, 19. I mean like still going to school teenager. And I remember the Duck Dynasty guy. I kind of forget which one. I think Robert something Roberts, whatever. The Duck Dynasty guy actually saying that you have to get girls young before they, you know, really get a sense. I don't want to say a sense of who they are, but basically that's what he was saying. You don't want a woman who knows her own mind. You don't want a woman who has her own ideas about her future. You want to get a woman young so that you can like find her and mold her into like this perfect like baby machine and wife. That's basically what he was telling people. Because when a woman gets older, she becomes more established in what she wants. She sees more of the world. Maybe she's gone off to college. Maybe she's just had a job where she actually manages her own money. And that's often a threat to certain types of men. Not good men, you know. And I say men only because we're talking about heteronormative relationships here. You know, we're not talking about like lesbian relationships or non-binary people and whatnot. But it's often aimed at men, that men have to be this kind of like provider, but they have to like get and established but get women young and naive. It's kind of like the whole sex thing. Men are supposed to be like, before they get married, they're supposed to kind of know what they're doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of these people are also into the whole everybody must remain pure for marriage. And I have to tell you, at least that's morally consistent. Yeah, Phil Robertson, thank you. But yeah, he said that that you need to get women young, girls young. You don't want them to like have their own mind and their own money, and that's just a threat. And a lot of like really conservative people echo this statement, because you want to be able to like sweep her off her feet when she is young. Because, okay, think about this. When you are 15 and you see someone with a car and a house or an apartment and a job, they seem so grown up. And a lot of times you want to be grown up when you're a teenager, a lot of times, and you want to be thought of as mature. And here, this person is like turning their eye toward you. They're seeking you out. They want to date you. They're wooing you, and they have a little bit of money to do so. And they're telling you they love you. And when you're a teenager, especially because you haven't seen too much of the world yet, you get so wrapped up in this other person who is, I don't want to say love bombing you, but essentially like really paying attention to you on a very like personal level, to the point where you would just become so enamored. I mean, Romeo and Juliet was a cautionary tale because there were these two teenagers who were buffoons who fell so deeply in, I guess, puppy love for each other that it consumed all else. Literally all else. Some people look at it as a love story, but it's more about obsession. It's more about like looking at everything like through certain types of lenses of childhood. Like, I would do anything for you. Like, they barely knew each other, but yet they were willing to like burn down the world. And it wasn't because they like knew each other in a past life or whatever. It was just because they were so young that it became so obsessive. And imagine that, plus, you know, you have this young girl looking at this guy who is so much more mature. And yeah. And I've known people who like to go after younger people for various reasons. I'm not for that. I look at people in their 20s and it's really hard for me not to see a child. I know they're not. Physically, they're not. You know, intellectually, they're not. I get that. But I often see them as children. I can't help it. I mean, my baby sibling is 30, okay? And I'm like, I remember when I changed this kid's diapers. I remember when I rocked them to sleep. Like, to me, they're gonna always be my baby. You know, I remember like playing Go Fish and helping them read and just singing them lullabies. And to me, you know, the artist sibling is always gonna be my tiny little person, you know. Right, yeah. That could be. There's a lot that goes into it. You know, in Shrek 2, when the fairy godmother is making like basically like a love at first sight or a true love potion or whatever, she's like talking about these different things, and then at the end she's like, just a hint of lust, and she like pours in a gallon of lust into this potion. And I think it was like love at first sight. And that's the thing, love at first sight doesn't truly exist. Because what happens if the love at first sight person opens their fucking mouth and hear their trash? Then it wasn't really love at first sight. It was just you being taken away by someone beautiful, handsome, whatever, gorgeous. But yeah, getting back to my oldest brother, my estranged oldest brother, whatever, his former best friend has an ex-wife who he started dating when she was in high school, and he was in his late 20s or so. Maybe like early 30s. I honestly forget how old he was. We're gonna say late 20s just to kind of be safe. But yeah, was dating a girl in high school. Like, and I'm just like, ew, ew, ew. And I'm thinking to myself, is her mother or whatever okay with this? Because I wouldn't be. But then again, I also kind of knew who the person was that she was getting involved with. And again, ew. Remember when I told you about people talking about trauma dumping that one day in Dan's room? Well, it was about that guy. I was talking about that guy. And it was called a trauma dumper. So I will explain someday if you want me to. We'll just call him PJ. But I'll explain what happened with PJ if anybody wants me to. But just say, you know, even the kind of woman I am, which you all know I'm like fatter than a motherfucker. I am like riddled with like medical conditions. I'm in a wheelchair. Like everybody knows pretty much everything about me, right? So even though like I didn't have as many medical conditions back then and whatnot, I've always been a fat fuck and I've always been in a wheelchair, like always. And even with everything I have going on physically, like he was kind of, let's just say, a predator. Yeah, arousal at first sight. You know, sometimes it works out, but it's still what it is. Like I told you the story of my grandparents where my grandpa dropped my grandma off from a bar. Like she hitched a ride home with a stranger, which, okay, that works out not well, but it was like the 50s maybe. Anyway, she hitched a ride with him and to go home, and then he asked her out, so they went out on a first date and they slept together first date, and they were together until the day he died, which unfortunately wasn't long enough because I think he died in his 50s. I was a toddler when my mom's dad died, so I never knew him. But yeah, I can't imagine like going that fast with somebody, but it worked out for them. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I say as I have to remember that husband and I started dating like really quick. And I mean really quick. And then like 2 weeks after dating, he asked me to marry him. So, although I think husband's dad did the same thing with husband's mom. So, like, it seems that let's say the Turtelli boys, even though I maybe the Just boys, the Just men seem to know what they want right away pretty much. So I never thought I'd be married, just the way people react to me, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of different thoughts running all over, and I'm trying not to like just start talking about everything in existence all at once. This is why I haven't been sleeping though. My mind is like going at a blur, which is okay, but I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep on average, and it's going to take its toll eventually. I've tried napping, I've tried not napping, I've tried going to bed whenever the hell I'm tired, whenever the hell that'll be, and still nothing. So like I went to lay down today and try to get a nap in, and then my body was like, nah. So that's unfortunate on the porch. But yeah, my sister is going to like this conference in October, and it's for like disabled people and stuff like that, for learning like self-determination skills. And she's actually going to be a vendor there because her stuff like has to do kind of with disability at points, like she's doing disability pride stuff and all that. So here she is like thrown in the deep end because at points she says to her person who does her stuff for Medicaid, like, this is considered an educational conference, so you can help me out with this. So they can, but yet her case manager, and this is not DVR for once, is actually not doing what she's supposed to do, and it might actually cost my sister the conference. And my sister is like really freaking out because there are so many moving parts. Okay, so imagine you're gonna go to a conference, and it's just I'm gonna talk to my able-bodied people right now. Imagine you're going to a conference, so you need to fill out the forms that say you're gonna be a vendor, pay the vendor fee, which is like 50 bucks at this thing. And you're gonna be a vendor there. You have to make the stuff and make sure you have like the proper payment methods. And because it's a cashless thing, so you can't request cash, you have to actually have something set up for taking money. So you get that, you get money for your hotel room, you know, you get in your car and you go. Well, when you're disabled, that isn't quite how all this works. When you're disabled, you need your vendor fee, then you need extra money for your caregiver to come along. And if you need another caregiver besides the first one you're allowed, you need to actually talk to people about letting them come in, because you might not be allowed the second person, because there isn't anything in the paperwork that says you can have a second one. But sometimes when you're disabled, especially when you're in a place where you might not be able to navigate, because we have already talked about in other times and other streams, whatever, that the ADA is just a baseline of averages. It doesn't cover everything. So imagine you need a second caregiver and now there's only room for one. So it's like, how do you figure this out? And then you not only need lodging for you, but you need lodging for your caregiver. You don't drive, so you need someone to take you up there, and you're hoping it's a caregiver, but you're like, who is it going to be? Because they don't find you caregivers anymore. You have to find your own. So if you're lucky enough to have family that can take you, you have to coordinate with family members. But if you're not lucky enough to have a family member who can go, then you're going to have to ask around or even put up an ad on Facebook, which is incredibly safe, asking if someone can actually like lift you, shower you, feed you, whatever it is you need. So you end up having to figure all that out, and then you not only have to make everything else, but you have to like make sure you coordinate with your insurance to make sure they can pay for stuff, and if they can't, what happens. And right now she's doing market research, and she kind of has to, I sold it without being able to pay for the other thing, damn. And she has to be able to do the market research for her business at this thing, which is fine, but that's like a whole other can of worms, ball of wax, whatever. And the reason that's happening, overwhelmed. The reason why that's happening is because DBR doesn't want to give her the fucking money until she can prove that through conferences and stuff that she can sell her products. So she is doing product testing when she didn't even know until like the summer that she was going to be doing this in this kind of environment. So she has to make sure she has everything, and that's on top of the caregivers. And now if you need extra equipment, like if you need a commode, if you need a lift to get you in and out of bed, if you need certain like things for the shower, you have to also remember to pack all that shit as well. Plus, you don't know if the hotel will have stuff for dietary restriction needs. And if they're only allowing food at certain times, as far as like, we're gonna give you a complimentary breakfast, but you're on your own, you have to think of how you're going to be able to get food that meets your dietary restrictions. There are like so many different moving parts when you are disabled, and it's something a lot of people don't think about. So starting a business or going to a conference, whatever, is already very nerve-wracking. There's already a million moving things, moving parts, moving expectations to try and manage and get going, and then all of a sudden you just have to deal with all the extra stuff. That's why a lot of times people say being disabled is a full-time job. Plus, you have to coordinate with a lot of other people as well. Well, that was a shitty run. I need to hydrate, please. Thank you, my dear. 1 second, choppers. Okay. But it's like when I want to record a video for YouTube. Let's say I'm going to record a video for you all, and I'm going to just like record it and sit down and all that. I not only have to have my needs met where I can do it, but like my caregiver needs to be, you know, good on sleep enough to help me, or me not wake him up when I'm starting to record or what have you. And people think, well, you can just like record a video and go, and it's like you can't when you are disabled. If you need someone else's help, you are also going around their schedule as well. So imagine, if you will, now certain things require your caregivers on board, require your insurance on board, require your transportation people on board, and all of a sudden there's like 7, 8, 9 people who need to all sign off before you can do one thing, go one place. And that's the kind of bullshit we deal with. So I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope so. Again, lack of sleep. But it's like we have to coordinate an entire team. It's almost like we're celebrities or something. And if one of those parts falls through, well, we're pretty fucked if we can't find anybody else. Because if the caregiver can't go to the conference and no other caregivers can go, then that's a bad thing. If you have a, separate driver than your caregiver for whatever reason, then they can't make it, then you can't go. It's if this then that all over again. So just imagine trying to get all that done at the same time. It's wild. I told my sister, like, she's better than I am at this. I would be like, nope, not doing that shit. I already, you know, have a lot of hard times getting everything for like doctor's appointments and whatnot, because the people who give me a ride, they have to know ahead of time. But sometimes they're like, well, we can't know too far ahead of time because we don't know what's going to be happening and who's on deck, because the wheelchair van drivers, they actually are not in abundance. A lot of people don't want to deal with the wheelchairs, getting them in and out and, you know, strapped in and whatnot. So many people are just like, I'll take regular vans, but then the few you get for the wheelchair vans then are pretty booked up because, you know, there's only a few. Yeah, I know I'm rambling. I do that. Did you all know, and I didn't remember this case, that in like the 1991 maybe, there was a guy who was like a white man who pretended to be a Japanese man who was a survivor of the bombing of Hiroshima in World War II. I don't remember how to say it, if it's Hiroshima or Hiroshima, but anyway, that he survived the bombing and he was writing poetry, and he had like so much of the poetry world fooled into thinking that he was this person. So that was a lot. But I didn't know about that guy until recently. And I think there's been like way more cases of that kind of thing than we even know about. So I just find the weirdest stuff like fascinating. Honestly, I don't know why poetry. Because poetry is not prestigious. You do not get mobbed by flash photography. You do not have the red carpet rolled out for you for rewards and awards and all that kind of thing. You do not have people know your name. You are not getting interviewed on like the Today Show. Your mother is probably not going to be like, oh yes, my son, daughter, child, that they got like $1 million advance and stuff like that. It doesn't happen with poetry. So just to be like, indeed, it's like, no. I don't understand the whole poetry thing. I mean, I understand like feeling like you're getting away with something, but poetry is not mainstream enough to just get it done for that purpose. And as far as like feeling like you have an accomplishment or something, pretending to be someone you're not just to get where you think they will lead you, that's not an accomplishment either. I would rather get accepted or considered with my own voice, with my own identity. And people can say, well, you know, pen names have existed forever. And yes, that's true. And women used to use male pen names a lot because they were considered, you know, too fluffy brained to actually make a coherent story or argument or whatever, and just not worth listening to. So as a woman back in the day, you had really no choice but to, you know, make up a name. Like George Eliot is actually in the name of a man, or the name of a man, a pen name of a woman, not really a man. That's what I wanted to say. Jesus, okay, there we go. So, but it's not the same thing. Because in one way you're harming a community, and in another way you're just kind of, you know, existing. Trying to level a playing field that has been historically against you. And I think that is an important context, the historically against you bit. So, I don't know. I'm wondering if my poems would be accepted more if I had a male name or not. Probably not. I don't see that as actually a thing. And it would make sense because a lot of my poems have to deal with, I guess, I don't want to say the feminine, but like the body in such a way that like most people would assume correctly my gender. I'm not saying you can do that with all poets, but I'm saying you can do that with me. I think this will be the last run. I would love to take a nap before my shower. I'm exhausted. But if I do that, then my brain's gonna be like, ooh, up all night. But then again, never know. But yeah, my baby sibling has to go back to college soon for another year. That means I'm not gonna be able to see them much until in person until around Christmas. They might stop home around Halloween, but that's not a given, unfortunately. I have been seeing them a fair amount this summer though, so I can't complain. I really like being able to spend time with them because when they're in college, I can't. So, and they've been going through their own ups and downs, and I really do feel like they are so close to doing good things, but you know, they always have this doubt about college, and I'm like, but you're so close. And I'm just wondering if like I'm engaging in a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to like my baby siblings like art education, because I'm like, it's just one more year, but then like what happens if it's not? Like, artist sibling has thought before that they were almost done and they weren't, so I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I want the best for them, but it is also up to them what they do with their career and their life. And I know that, and I would never force them to make the choice. But I've talked them through a lot of like little breakdowns through college and stuff. And I remember college, like when I would go to finals or midterms, and on the way home, because it would be like an hour from college to home, I would just sob in the van. I would just sob and sob. Even if I know I did well, I would just sob because it was so stressful for me. And I wanted to get it right, so. Okay, what does this thing do? I don't think we're gonna do that. That gives the enemy way, way too much power over me. And we don't want that. We don't want the labyrinth scene where I have to say, you have no power over me, as it almost consumes me entirely. But yeah, they have the 10th Kingdom on Tubi, and I was like, I might want to watch that, but I have the 10th Kingdom on DVD because my husband found out I loved that mini-series. They also have the one with the, basically the Romeo and Juliet with leprechauns versus fairies with Whoopi Goldberg and Randy Quaid, I think it is. So, fuck. Okay, well, I could keep doing runs of this like all night long, but I'm gonna probably stop here. I will upload this part, as rambling and weird as it's been, and I will be back on Thursday with something that is not Oblivion because of all the fuckery afoot and the ant text and all that fun stuff. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye!